Welcome back, Nightmare Hunters. And if you're new here, a huge welcome to the HOA Nightmare Files, your ultimate destination for jaw-dropping true stories of HOA overreach and the epic battles against it. Before we dive into today's unbelievable tale, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. And while you're down there, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you're always the first to find out when our latest HOA nightmare hits the screen. All right, let's get into this video.
The scent of damp cedar and freshly turned earth clung to Jedediah, Jed Stone's weathered Bronco as he navigated the narrow, winding dirt track towards Stone's Haven. 2 decades spent wrangling oil rigs in the North Sea and blasting rock in Australian mines had carved deep lines into his face, but the unwavering image of this quiet sanctuary in Emberwood County, nestled beside the tranquil expanse of Mirror Lake, had been his constant guide. It wasn't a maudlin longing, not really, more like a resonant hum of belonging, a place where existence simply was. He'd stolen weeks here and there over the years, quick drafts of mountain air and the cool embrace of the lake before the pull of the rig called him back. But this time, it was different. This was his final, quiet return. No grand entrance, just the familiar crunch of tires on gravel at 3 a.m., the gentle sigh of the engine dying, and the profound silence of dawn breaking over the water. The cabin, painstakingly built by his great-grandfather's calloused hands, stood just as he'd left it, a little more weathered, the porch leaning a touch further, the roof hinting at tales of forgotten gales, but still gazing out at Mirror Lake with an enduring dignity. And behind it, countless acres of Stone family land, untouched since 1872, diligently managed by Stone family trusts. Jed spent those initial days shedding the grime of his former life. Cobwebs surrendered to his broom, new locks clicked into place, and the old dock, twisted into a grotesque knot by the last flood, was painstakingly coaxed back to sanity. New wiring hummed to the solar bank, the gravel path received a fresh layer, and the generator, an old friend, purred contentedly. It wasn't opulent, but it felt right, and Jed had truly, profoundly missed right. His peace was shattered by the arrival of the Duchess of Heron's Perch. Beatrice Blackwood, president of the Heron's Perch Homeowners Association, materialized on his property like a sharp east wind, clutching a pristine, cream-colored envelope. "Jedediah Stone," she trilled, her voice far too cheerful for 5:30 a.m. Jed, wiping chainsaw oil from his hands, simply grunted. "I'm Beatrice Blackwood," she announced, as if addressing a royal court. "You're in violation of our Lakefront Access Covenant's Article 9, Paragraph C. This dwelling, according to our aerial survey, has been deemed abandoned. You have 72 hours to vacate or face immediate punitive action." Jed almost chuckled, certain it was a prank. He opened the envelope. No, deadly serious. Formal letterhead, intricate legal jargon, all about shared recreational assets. His name wasn't even on it, just unidentified occupant. Beatrice, meanwhile, was meticulously inspecting his beat-up pickup truck, as if it were a getaway vehicle for a diamond heist. "This property," she declared, puffing out her chest, "was recently annexed by Heron's Perch Estates. We've redefined the perimeter. Your cabin now falls within our community leisure zone." Jed offered a slow, easy grin, reaching into his glove compartment. "Ma'am," he drawled, pulling out a stack of aged, brittle documents, "this place predates your development by about 150 years. Here's the original land grant from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, a county survey, and the notarized deed. And right here is the updated filing with Stone Family Trusts out of Harrisburg." He extended the folder to her. She barely spared it a glance. "Well, perhaps," she sniffed, a dismissive flick of her wrist. "But our legal counsel is currently assessing prescriptive easements. This cabin isn't registered for collective use and represents a significant liability." Jed leaned back, his grin widening. "Ma'am, this shoreline is private family land. Your HOA is built on leased agricultural land that belonged to the Miller family. That lease, it expired 5 months ago. I'm not on your plat map. I'm not in your jurisdiction." Beatrice's face tightened, her composure visibly fraying. After a long, strained moment, she straightened her perfectly knotted silk scarf, her eyes cold as ice. "We'll see about that." She spun on her heel and zoomed off in her gleaming black Tesla Model X. But Jed caught her gaze as she passed the old granite marker at his property line, JS 1872. It wasn't confusion in her eyes, but a calculating, predatory glint. By day 4, that initial envelope felt less like a gentle caution and more like the opening salvo in a quiet, escalating war. A bicycle courier delivered a final notice, despite him never receiving a first or second. Same ludicrous claims about the shoreline, but now with a glossy, aggressively highlighted map labeling his cabin an unsanctioned encroachment slated for transition to public access. Fancy words for, "We're taking your land." Jed tucked it into his Heron's Perch hokum folder and called his old acquaintance Roy at the Emberwood County Planning Office. Roy owed him a big one, and Jed needed some inside intel on recent property filings. "Jed, you've stirred up a hornet's nest of bureaucracy," Roy chuckled, and he wasn't wrong. Soon, a sleek white drone buzzed ominously over Mirror Lake. Later, headlights lingered at the old logging road entrance, their beams cutting through the night. And a clipboard-wielding fellow in designer hiking shorts meandered around his cabin, muttering about community benefit optimization. Jed calmly but firmly ushered him off, then promptly upgraded his security cameras. He also unearthed every dusty document he possessed. Ancient surveys, land grants, even a faded sepia photograph of his great-grandfather constructing the cabin with a team of oxen. If they wanted a paper fight, they were about to get a history lesson with iron teeth. 2 days later, Roy called back this time, his voice more serious. "Jed, you're not going to like this. Someone's filed a quiet title action claiming your land has been abandoned. Bogus occupancy logs and drone photographs were attached. It's all spurious, but it's under review." Jed gripped his coffee mug. "Who signed it?" Roy hesitated. "A Phineas Finch, linked to Heron's Perch legal team. A proxy, then. How utterly predictable."
By dusk, Jed had a plan forming. He scanned every document, drafted a notarized occupancy declaration, meticulously archived all his security footage, and dropped it all onto a thumb drive for the county judge. But he didn't stop there. He drove to the state capitol, walked into the Office of Historical Resources, and laid out his family's legacy, the photographs, the deeds, the trust records, even a faded 1962 letter from the Department of Conservation. The archivist, a sharp-eyed woman with a passion for local heritage, leaned forward. "Mr. Stone," she said, her voice quiet but firm, "this land tells its own story, and it's a story worth protecting." Jed left with a commitment for historical designation evaluation. Back home, a bright yellow-ribboned stake had been driven into the ground near his boundary, declaring recreational easement zone. No tracks, just an unsettling, silent declaration. It was Sunday morning. Mist still clung to the surface of Mirror Lake, and the ancient pines were dewy. Jed was methodically splitting firewood when 2 county patrol cars, lights flashing discreetly, pulled up the lane. 2 officers, stern-faced but polite, approached. "Mr. Stone?" "That's me." "Report of an unauthorized structure, possible squatter, matches your description." Jed didn't flinch. "You're on private land, family-owned for over a century. Documents are inside,
And yes, I am legally armed." The younger officer tensed, but Jed calmly invited them into his cabin. His kitchen table was transformed into a veritable museum of ownership: deeds, maps, surveys, and photographs. The older officer, a veteran with tired eyes, took his time, clearly impressed by the notarized map. "Who made the complaint?" Jed asked. The rookie, clearly uncomfortable, blurted out, "Caller ID traced it to the Heron's Perch Estates office. Female voice." Jed knew. "Do I look like a squatter?" The senior officer sighed. "More of a civil dispute, Mr. Stone, but we had to respond." "I understand," Jed said. "Someone is using you to play real estate games." As they left, Jed spotted Beatrice Blackwood's black Tesla parked a discreet distance down the road, watching, her smirk a razor-thin line. She snapped a photo of his license plate. Big mistake. 3 hours later, his accountant called. Utterly bewildered, an anonymous tip had been made to the state tax board, alleging illegal occupancy and undeclared income from a private rental. Beatrice Blackwood's fingerprints were all over it. That's when it truly hit him. This wasn't just harassment. This was a full-blown, coordinated assault. She wanted to break him. Jed made 3 calls: his lawyer, a property rights defense foundation, and an old friend at the sheriff's department. Then he brewed another pot of strong coffee and began writing a declaration of intent. This wasn't just about land. It was a line in the sand. The first meme surfaced on social media. A blurry aerial photograph of his land, cleverly cropped to make his cabin appear to be encroaching on a public trail. Unpermitted shack. Who's hiding at the lake squatter's den? Heron's Perch HOA members went wild, labeling him creepy and demanding immediate action. One woman, emboldened by keyboard anonymity, typed, "He's filming our children on the lakeside path. Pervert!" Jed just rolled his eyes. He'd just dealt with a bogus claim about illegal graywater discharge. He had a zero runoff filtration system, for crying out loud. Beatrice was playing dirty. She wanted public opinion on her side, painting him as a rogue agent disrupting their idyllic lakeside paradise. Then a glossy flyer appeared downtown at the county clerk's office. The same map, the same ominous yellow highlight, but now titled Community Access Initiative, Enhancing Shared Natural Spaces. And in small print, Heron's Perch HOA invites public discourse on civic utilization of shoreline assets, including historical structures not zoned for public access. She was twisting his family's heritage into a neglected public amenity. His mailbox became a repository for informal mediation session invitations from HOA members. One even had a silver-inked personal note. "Let's not involve litigation. We all desire what's best for the lake." Straight to the fire pit. Then came the zoning proposal on the HOA website. A new map extending their practical usage zones to include the southern inlet of Mirror Lake, precisely where his fishing dock stood and where Heron's Perch residents frequently paddleboarded. Beatrice was muddling the waters, trying to convince everyone he never belonged. Jed went to the Emberwood County Commission office with his screenshots, requesting a public hearing. The clerk, a woman named Agnes with a no-nonsense bun, peered over her spectacles. "You're not the first they've attempted this with, Mr. Stone, but you are the first with an 1800s land grant." Jed smiled. To counter the insidious propaganda, Jed uploaded his own video. No rants, no theatrics, just calm, irrefutable facts. Him walking his property, explaining its long history, showing the ancient boundary markers, reading directly from the original deed, holding up his GPS overlaid survey, then standing on his dock, facing the camera directly. "My name is Jedediah Stone. My family has owned and protected this land for over 150 years. This isn't about zoning, it's about dispossession, and I will not allow that to happen." A local YouTube historian, specializing in Appalachian legal quirks and forgotten land disputes, picked up his video. His detailed breakdown of the HOA's deceptive practices went viral. Within 48 hours, the smear-filled social media page abruptly disabled comments. Beatrice posted a terse message about unwarranted external interference and malicious attacks. Jed figured he was now a shadowy real estate magnate with a drone. But she wasn't done. His buddy at the county assessor's office called. The HOA had submitted a petition to re-examine the cadastral boundaries around Heron's Perch estates, even challenging the 2001 Miller lease documents. It's a long shot, his friend admitted, but if it gets buried, it could take months to resolve. Jed thanked him, hung up, and immediately emailed a comprehensive bundle of records to the Land Rights Defense League, a small but fiercely dedicated group of property rights lawyers. A modest donation, and by morning, an intriguing email arrived. "Your case is compelling. Let's schedule a call." One evening, his cabin lights flickered erratically and then died completely. The generator hadn't kicked in, indicating a grid issue. He checked the power shed, everything seemed fine there, but the primary grid feed was dead, not a coincidence. The next morning, the electric co-op technician, a stoic man with grease-stained hands, stated flatly, "Service request to disconnect. Non-payment, inactive occupancy." "Mistake," Jed countered. "I have auto-debit set up." "Request wasn't from you. It came from an HOA account. Said the cabin was no longer part of the active service zone and an electrical hazard." Jed fumed. "Did you verify ownership?" A pause. "Authorized by someone listed as Adjacent Property Coordinator, Beatrice Blackwood."
Jed stormed the co-op office, armed with his folder of deeds and an attitude that could sour milk. The supervisor, a portly man, went visibly pale. "Mistake," he mumbled, wiping his brow. "Should have triggered verification." Instead, Jed countered, his voice low and dangerous, it triggered an outage and a criminal act. Service was promptly restored, but Jed wasn't taking any chances. He upgraded his robust diesel generator, added more battery banks, and installed a satellite internet dish designed for remote, hostile environments. Beatrice could cut the lights, but Jed had lived with far less. It wasn't over. 3 days later, he found 4 strangers on his land, clipboards, a laser measure, and, inevitably, a drone. Green Valley Development, they announced, streamlining community access. When he asked which community, they replied, Phase 3 of Mirror Lake expansion. Jed actually laughed, a dry, incredulous sound. "Son, this is stone soil. My great-grandfather carved that lake. You're 2 legal nightmares away from aggravated trespass." They left quickly when he started filming them. That night, a crudely formatted PDF arrived in his inbox from a fake Hotmail account, adorned with official-looking HOA logos, an access integration proposal that brazenly carved his property into various recreational corridors. He forwarded it to his lawyer, the land rights folks, and, just for kicks, a local journalist who'd previously covered a similar land dispute. By morning, the PDF had leaked. Reddit exploded, dubbing Beatrice Queen of Conquistador Zoning, photoshopping her onto a giant game board. Jed thought perhaps that might finally slow her down. Nope. Later that week, his satellite internet signal died for 8 hours. Support informed him his account was flagged for multiple service locations. Someone had registered a secondary service under his name, triggering a freeze. Beatrice had used his truck plate, cross-referenced the registration, and submitted false requests. Messy, but almost effective. Jed had reached his limit. He filed criminal complaints, digital impersonation, utility interference, fraudulent infrastructure claims. A meticulously notarized package, brimming with timelines and screenshots, went to the sheriff. But he went further. He called Nathaniel, Nate Rivers, a retired network engineer he'd known from his offshore days. Nate, who owed him a considerable favor, arrived with his own custom-built drone, data sniffers, and a charming disregard for rules. They struck gold. Beatrice had used an HOA contractor to piggyback on Jed's signal, rerouting his bandwidth to monitor environmental conditions, meaning she'd hacked into his private telemetry. Felonies, multiple ones. They meticulously documented everything. Then, Nate, with a mischievous grin, left a tempting decoy signal. The next day, an IP address traced to the Heron's Perch Estates HOA office attempted to access the fake weather sensor logs. Trap set. One glorious, sunny Saturday in July, the first strangers arrived. A gleaming white SUV, a young couple in expensive hiking gear, complete with a sleek tandem kayak strapped to the roof. Then more cars, families, children, a golden retriever chasing its tail with boundless enthusiasm. "Hi, weekend getaway," the woman chirped, beaming. "Is check-in at noon, or do we go straight to the fire pit?" Jed blinked. "Getaway?" "Yeah," she said, showing her a phone. The screen displayed https://www.google.com/search/question=mirrorlakewithtreats.com. Booked the lakefront cabin, dock access, solar kitchen. His damn cabin, his dock, his fire pit. $349 a night? Jed, taking a deep, calming breath, explained they had been scammed. 5 more cars pulled up. He brewed coffee for a man from Georgia, nearly in tears, his fishing trip ruined. It hit him then. This wasn't just about irritating him. This was about orchestrated chaos, making his land a public circus so she could declare, "Look at this chaos. Clearly, it needs proper management." That day, Jed called his lawyer and began digging. He created a fake profile and navigated to https://www.google.com/search/question=mirrorlakeretreats.com. A slick site, replete with drone footage from those trespassing consultants. The domain was anonymously registered. But Nate, his rogue network guy, ran a metadata trace. Within 36 hours, b.blackwood@hphoa.org. Beatrice. She hadn't even bothered to truly hide it. Jed sent everything to the sheriff, local news outlets, and the state attorney general's fraud division. Identity theft, wire fraud, unauthorized commercial use. His lawyer added defamation to the growing list, but Jed wanted more. Nate set up a honeypot, a mirror image of the fake rental site. Anyone who clicked Book Now was greeted with a stark banner. "Congratulations! You just engaged in an ongoing criminal investigation. Please remain available for contact." Then Jed put a video on YouTube and Reddit. They tried to Airbnb my sanctuary, how one HOA president stole my identity. It exploded. Local, then state news. A true crime podcast picked it up. Beatrice's inbox likely spontaneously combusted. Just when he thought he'd seen it all, another envelope crudely taped to his gate post. HOA stationery revoking his access to Heron's Perch public easements due to civil disturbances. He choked, laughing incredulously. The entire community was built on leased land they didn't even own anymore. And Jed had the original lease termination letter from the Miller family, signed and notarized. She was trying to ban him from walking on a road he owned. Desperate. And desperate meant sloppy. The end was near. The final, spectacular screw-up occurred on a Wednesday morning. Jed found the old chain across his private road cut clean through. In its place, a brand new sign proclaimed, HOA Property Enhancement Project, Heron's Perch Estates, and landscapers were already unloading decorative boulders. He asked who sent them. A clipboard with a work order signed by Beatrice Blackwood, claiming collaborative development rights. Unbelievably audacious. She had unilaterally declared his land a community beautification zone and started renovating. No permits, just pure, unadulterated ego. That was it. One call to the sheriff, another to the county land management office. Then he grabbed his 2001 cadastral survey and drove directly to the Emberwood County Courthouse. By sunset, he had a judge-signed injunction explicitly banning the HOA from touching his land. The next day, law enforcement arrived in force. Beatrice Blackwood was arrested at the Heron's Perch Estates HOA office for criminal trespass, impersonation, wire fraud, and destruction of private property. Her paper empire crumbled into dust. Furious Heron's Perch residents immediately filed a class action lawsuit against the HOA board for deliberately concealing the true ownership of the land. The developer vanished into thin air. A month later, the Emberwood County Court officially dissolved the Heron's Perch Estates HOA due to fraudulent foundational filings. The land reverted to county oversight, but the roads, the utility lines, the access points, still Jedediah stones.